Today we're going to be looking at the word repair. It crops up a lot in leases, doesn't it? It crops up in tenants' repairing obligations. It crops up often in tenants' yield up obligations, so return to landlord at the end of lease obligations. And it crops up, of course, in service charge obligations. So we're going to look at that word, why it's important, what's caught by that word repair. So looking at interpreting the lease and how the court will look at that. Looking at whether there's disrepair and whether that actually matters in terms of repair, and whether there is an obligation to repair. Looking in particular at the standard of repair. And something that's very topical in today's world, upgrading, replacement and upgrading. So we're going to be looking at replacement on its own and what that actually means and when you can get that and when you can demand it, when you can get payment for it, and to what extent upgrades are ever going to be allowable as part and parcel of the service charge or as part and parcel of the tenant's repairing obligation. So when we're talking about service charges, of course, we're talking about the landlord's repairing obligation. Service charges, of course, are wider than just repairing obligations, but repair is what we're looking at today. So we're going to look at the impact of this word repair on service charges and in particular on dilapidation. So that's the tenant's obligation to yield up the property at the end of the lease in good repair, and the tenant's failure to do that, leading the landlord to have a claim in dilapidations against the tenant, a claim that resounds entirely in damages. So we're very much looking at the sort of financial side of repair here, and to what extent landlords can recover the costs of repairs through the service charge, and to what extent the landlords can demand that the tenants actually carry out repairs a little during the term, but in particular, because landlords generally aren't so concerned during the term, in particular, the way the landlord can insist that the tenant should have yielded up in repair at the end of the term and is therefore entitled to damages for losses it has suffered. Finally, things to think about for service charges and dilapidations. Are the works actually repair? And that means looking at the standard of repair in the lease, looking at the age, location and character of the property at the date of the lease. Is there a standalone clause for replacement and or upgrade to current standards? And if not, insisting on works or recovering costs of works to make the property fit for market or MEES compliant or eco-friendly may not be possible. And I think that, as we saw from the previous slide, communication and drafting are the key to avoiding disputes. And if you haven't drafted to avoid the disputes, then communication is everything. Talk to the landlord, talk to the tenant, discuss all the points that we've looked at with regard to repair. That way, hopefully, you can avoid either a massive terminal dilapidations claim and or any dispute about service charges.